Rain pounded against the marble driveway of Kingston Manor. The storm howled like it had something to confess. Inside the mansion, Edward Kingston, a man who owned half the city and trusted no one, stood by his study window watching the rain slide down the glass like slow tears. His face was carved in stone. Cold, unreadable, powerful. A loud clang echoed from the kitchen below. He frowned. "Not again," he muttered. For weeks, things had been disappearing. Bits of food, a few $100s from his drawer, a missing watch. His staff whispered, but no one dared accuse anyone openly. Tonight, he'd had enough. He stormed downstairs and caught sight of Maria, his maid, packing leftovers into a small cloth bag. Her movements were quick and nervous. The old cook, Mrs. Patel, glanced away. Edward's deep voice sliced through the silence. "What are you doing with that food?" Maria froze. I was just cleaning up, sir." "Cleaning up into a bag." His tone was sharp. Maria's eyes darted to the floor. "Some of the food would spoil, so you decided to take it home, is that it?" She swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." His voice dropped colder. "You're paid well, Maria. And yet food and money keep disappearing. You think I don't notice?" Tears glistened in her eyes, but she said nothing. Instead, she bowed her head. "I'm sorry, sir." Edward turned away, disgusted. "Just do your job." He walked back upstairs, but her trembling hands and sad eyes wouldn't leave his mind. Something about her silence unsettled him. A thief should defend herself or lie better, but Maria, she just accepted the accusation. Later that night, when the mansion went quiet, Edward caught a glimpse of Maria leaving through the back gate, holding the same small bag. His chest tightened. Where is she going in this storm? Curiosity twisted into suspicion. He grabbed his coat, slipped into his black SUV, and followed at a distance. The city glistened with rain as he trailed her through narrow streets. Maria's figure looked small and fragile under her cheap umbrella, her shoes splashing through puddles. She didn't seem like someone sneaking to sell stolen food. She looked like someone with a purpose. But Edward couldn't let his emotions interfere. "If she's stealing from me, I'll know tonight," he whispered. After 20 minutes, Maria turned into a dark alley. The kind of place Edward's kind never walked. The billionaire parked quietly and stepped out, the cold rain soaking his hair. He followed her on foot, heart pounding. The air smelled of garbage and wet concrete. He watched as she disappeared behind a half-collapsed wall under a bridge. Crouching behind a rusted barrel, he peered in. What he saw froze him. A group of children, maybe 10 of them, huddled together under the bridge. Their clothes were torn, their faces pale. When they saw Maria, their eyes lit up. "Miss Maria!" they cried. Maria smiled, the kind of smile Edward had never seen in his mansion. She knelt, pulled out the bag, and handed out pieces of bread, fruit, and small boxes of food she'd packed earlier. "Eat slowly, my loves," she said softly. "There's enough for everyone tonight." The smallest boy, no older than 6, tugged on her sleeve. "You came back, Auntie Maria. We thought the rain would stop you." She ruffled his hair and laughed. "Rain never stops love, my dear." Edward felt something twist in his chest. His eyes stung as he watched her share everything she had, even handing out her scarf to a shivering girl. But his pride still fought back. Maybe she's trying to make herself look good. He stepped closer, careful not to be seen. Maria sat down beside the children, her voice low and trembling as she spoke.
"When I lost my Gabriel..."
"Gabriel?" she continued. "He was about your age," she said to the little boy beside her. "He used to sleep right here, under this bridge. He always told me, 'Mama, when I grow up, I'll buy you a house so big you'll never feel cold again.'" Her voice cracked, but he never got the chance. A heavy silence hung in the air. The rain softened as if listening. Edward's throat tightened. The realization hit him like lightning. She wasn't stealing. She was saving lives. He stepped back, his breath shaky. He'd misjudged her completely. He felt ashamed. All his wealth, all his assumptions, and here was a woman with nothing giving everything. He stood in the shadows for a while longer, watching her tuck the kids in with a worn blanket, whispering prayers over them before she left. The moment she disappeared into the rain, he finally exhaled. Back in his car, Edward gripped the steering wheel. "My God," he muttered, his voice cracking. "What have I done?" The drive home felt longer than ever. Each raindrop on the windshield echoed like guilt in his chest. The next morning, Maria returned to work, her clothes slightly damp. She greeted him as usual, polite, gentle, as if last night never happened. Edward studied her face, wondering how she managed to carry so much pain with such grace. He wanted to say something, but pride kept him silent. Hours later, he found her cleaning the staircase. "Maria," he said quietly. She turned, startled. "Yes, sir." He hesitated, choosing his words. "The food. You take every night. Why didn't you just tell me what it was for?" Maria froze. "You followed me?" He nodded slowly. "I did." Her eyes welled up. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to deceive you. You don't have to explain," he interrupted gently. "I saw everything." She covered her face, tears spilling through her fingers.
I'm not firing you. I'm apologizing.
Please don't fire me, sir. The children.
Maria looked up, confused. "I accused you without proof. I judged you without knowing your heart. Last night, you taught me something I should have known long ago." Her tears fell faster. "Sir, I only did what any mother would do." He paused. "You said your son's name was Gabriel?" She nodded, her lips trembling. "Yes, he died 5 years ago. We were homeless after my husband abandoned us. Gabriel used to beg near that bridge. He'd share his food with other kids, even when he was hungry himself. When he fell sick, I couldn't afford treatment. I promised him I'd keep helping others like him." Edward's eyes softened. "And you've kept that promise?" Maria smiled faintly, wiping her tears. "It's all I have left of him." The air between them hung thick with silence. For the first time in years, Edward felt his heart thaw. Later that evening, he sat alone in his study, staring at the rain again, but this time, his thoughts weren't of suspicion or wealth. They were of those children's faces, their laughter despite hunger. He thought of Maria's trembling hands and of faith. His butler entered quietly. "Sir, dinner is served." Edward didn't answer right away. Then, in a rare moment of softness, he said, "Send Maria home early tonight, and prepare some supplies, blankets, food, medicine." The butler blinked. "For charity, sir." Edward turned to the window. "For humanity." That night, Maria walked home unaware that Edward had followed her again, not out of suspicion, but out of purpose. He parked near the bridge and watched her distribute food, this time with several new boxes. When she saw the extra supplies, she gasped. Where did all this come from? A small note was taped to one of the boxes. Her hands shook as she read it. "From someone who finally understands." She looked around, but saw no one. The billionaire had already driven away, a faint smile on his lips. For the first time in years, Edward felt peace.
The next few days felt different at Kingston Manor. The air didn't carry that usual weight of silence. Edward caught himself listening for Maria's footsteps, half expecting that gentle hum she made while cleaning. For years he'd filled the halls with art and gold, yet none of it had ever sounded this alive. Maria went about her duties, unaware that her quiet kindness had cracked open the hardest heart in the city. That evening, Edward called his assistant. "Mark," he said, voice firm but warm, "I want every architect and planner in my office tomorrow. We're building something new, something that matters." Mark, startled, asked, "Another mall, sir?" "No," Edward said, "a home. A shelter for children who have none." There was a pause on the line. "Sir, that's unexpected," Edward smiled faintly. "So was kindness when I found it." The next morning, Maria arrived and saw blueprints spread across the table. She tried to dust around them until Edward said, "Come here, Maria. I need your opinion." She blinked in confusion. "My opinion, sir." He nodded. "You're the reason for this project. It's going to be a home for the children under that bridge, a place where they can eat, learn, and sleep safely." Maria froze. "Sir, you can't mean—" "I do." He pushed the blueprint toward her. "It'll be called the Gabriel Home." Her knees gave out and she sank into a chair, covering her mouth. Tears spilled freely. "You remembered his name." "How could I forget?" Edward said quietly. "He changed you, and you changed me." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The rain had stopped outside, leaving the sky clear and gentle. Weeks passed, and construction began near that same bridge. Maria visited daily, helping the workers, arranging donations, choosing colors for the classrooms. Edward came too, not as the billionaire barking orders, but as a man who finally wanted to build something with a soul. One afternoon, While Maria was helping paint one of the walls, a small voice called out, "Miss Maria." She turned to see little Daniel, the boy who had tugged her sleeve that night. He ran into her arms, squealing with joy. "You said one day we'd have a place. Look, it's really happening." She hugged him tight. "Yes, my love. Dreams do come true when good hearts meet." Edward watched from a few steps away, smiling. Mark whispered beside him, "Sir, the press will love this story." Edward shook his head. "No press. No publicity. This isn't for them. This is between God and conscience." As weeks turned into months, the empty lot transformed into something beautiful. Colorful walls, neat bunk beds, a kitchen that smelled of hope. On the day of the opening, Maria stood at the entrance in a simple dress, her eyes wide with disbelief. Edward arrived quietly, without a suit, without bodyguards. The children cheered when they saw him. Maria approached, tears already forming. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." He smiled. "By keeping that promise you made to your son, keep helping them." Together they cut the ribbon. The children flooded inside, exploring their new home. Laughter filled the air like music, bouncing off the bright walls. Edward felt something he hadn't felt in decades, joy that didn't depend on wealth. Later that evening, Maria found him sitting on the steps, watching the sunset over the playground. "You stayed longer than usual," she said. He chuckled. "Turns out it's hard to leave when peace finally feels real." They sat in silence for a moment, until Maria whispered, "You know, Gabriel would have loved this place. He loved books, music, stories, and sunsets." Edward nodded. "Then this place will always have plenty of all three." A faint laugh escaped her lips. "Thank you, sir." He looked at her, his expression soft. "No, Maria. Thank you. You reminded me what wealth is supposed to mean." That night, Edward couldn't sleep. He opened his phone and watched a video someone had recorded during the opening. Children singing, Maria smiling, the sign, "The Gabriel Home," shining in gold. The comments were flooding in with gratitude. He smiled and decided to post a short message on his own social channel. "Kindness is the only investment that never fails. If this story touched you, remember, someone near you needs the compassion you've been saving." Within hours, it spread like wildfire. Thousands shared it. People volunteered, donated, and messaged saying the story made them cry. But Edward didn't care about the numbers. He cared about one thing, that those children were asleep under a roof that love built. A few weeks later, Edward visited again, unannounced. The children ran to him, calling him Uncle Ed. He laughed, a sound the mansion had never heard before. Maria was in the kitchen, teaching a few girls how to bake bread. The smell carried through the hallways. "Smells better than my chef's cooking," he teased. Maria blushed. "The secret ingredient is joy, sir." He leaned on the doorframe. "Then I've been missing that ingredient all my life." Outside, Daniel tugged at Edward's sleeve. "Uncle Ed, when I grow up, I'll be rich like you." Edward smiled. "That's good, Daniel. But promise me something. When you get there, use your riches to make someone else smile first." The boy nodded solemnly. "I promise." Maria watched them, tears glimmering again. For once, they were tears of peace, not sorrow. Weeks later, tragedy nearly struck when a fire broke out in a nearby shanty where more children lived. The news reached Maria first. She rushed to the scene, fear clutching her chest. Edward, upon hearing, left a meeting mid-sentence and drove through red lights to get there. Flames licked the sky, but by the time he arrived, Maria and the older kids were already pulling younger ones to safety. Soot covered her face, her arms burned, but she didn't stop until every child was safe. Edward grabbed her shoulders. "Are you insane? You could have died." Maria smiled weakly. "I couldn't watch another Gabriel die." His eyes filled with tears. "You're the bravest person I've ever met." She shook her head. "Just a mother who still remembers pain." In the weeks after, Edward expanded the shelter into a small community center with trained staff, nurses, and teachers. He insisted Maria become the director. She resisted at first. "Sir, I'm just a maid." But he replied, "Not anymore. You're the heart of this place." The mansion felt emptier without her daily presence, but Edward didn't mind. He visited often, usually at sunset, bringing books and treats. The laughter of children replaced the echo of loneliness that once filled his marble halls. Months later, at the anniversary of the Gabriel home, Maria gave a short speech. Her voice trembled as she said, "A year ago, I was accused of stealing. I thought it was the worst day of my life. But that..."
Thank you. Seeing all of you here tonight, celebrating with us, it means the world. Gabriel would have loved this.
When they finally see with their hearts. The crowd applauded. Edward tried to hide his tears, but one slipped free. That night, as the children slept and Maria turned off the lights, she found a letter on her desk. It read, "Dear Maria, you gave me back something I lost long ago, faith in people. I've transferred full ownership of the Gabriel home to you and your team. My mansion no longer feels like home, so I'll be traveling, building more shelters. Keep doing what you do best, changing lives." Your friend, Edward. Maria pressed the letter to her chest and cried silently, not out of sadness, but gratitude. Months later, news spread of new shelters opening across the country, each one named after a child, each one carrying a story of hope. And at every opening, a familiar quote appeared on the walls. "The richest people are those who give." Maria continued her work, now surrounded by hundreds of children, calling her Mama Maria. Every evening she'd light a small candle by Gabriel's photo and whisper, "Your dream came true, my boy." One night as she tucked Daniel into bed, he asked, "Mama Maria, do you think Uncle Ed will come back?" She smiled. "He's everywhere kindness happens." The camera pans upward. The laughter of children fills the air, blending with a gentle breeze. The light from the shelter glows against the dark city, a symbol of second chances. And the narrator's voice closes softly. Never judge a person by their position. Some of the purest souls serve quietly, while the proud learn humility through them. If this story touched your heart, take a moment, share it, leave a comment about what kindness means to you, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what truly matters. Let's fill the world with compassion, one story at a time. Fade out.